Yeah, I my heart here. Are you somebody who is in a relationship with somebody with untreated borderline personality, or you have been in a relationship and you're an ex, and wherever you are, since the relationship breakup, whether you're still in contact or you've gone full no contact, are you still trying to figure them out? Are you still trying to figure out what makes the untreated borderline tick? Because, there's just so much about how they see you as a parent, as I've talked about before. And what happens is that people with BPD, men and women with BPD, untreated, they are so desperate. They might not even know this consciously, but so desperate for love, so desperate to be able to know self, because they don't. And so they often look back to the wounding parent, because in a codependent way within BPD, they're still trying to find the love, satiation, soothing, anything, of all the things that they didn't have their needs met in childhood. So people with BPD, when you first meet them, and you can't know about the idealization and the mirroring and their codependent people-pleasing. And so people with codependency largely, when you meet the person with BPD, there's no way to know that they're kind of like reaching out to you in a way that's going to amount to and be tantamount to, after the honeymoon phase, as if you are, never mind the object of their parent, but as if you're just a life preserver. Because a lot of people with BPD talk a lot about feeling like emotionally that they're drowning, right? So what is that really about? Well, they feel like they're drowning emotionally because there's so much, incredibly much emotion there, triggered, dysregulated emotion. And like I've said before, they have no conscious reference for why that is. And that's why it's going to get externalized out onto you. But so when you get to know this person with BPD, and in any relationship type with somebody with BPD, by the way, not just significant other, what's ostensibly happening there that you can't know in the beginning or the first time around, they're like throwing a life preserver around your neck. So as they feel, when they feel like they're drowning, they've got the rope to hang on to, and you are that, the essence of that, that buoy, B-U-O-Y, or however you spell it, in the water, that's going to help them stay afloat. And people with BPD, even though they can behave in many different ways and manifest many different types of behavior, they largely have a huge shame wound, among other things, fear of abandonment, attachment difficulties, and adverse experience. But they are always most often feeling, no matter how they behave or what they externalize, they're feeling less than. They're feeling inferior. They're feeling lost. They're in so much pain so much of the time. And again, they don't know why. They don't know that it's the here, trigger dysregulated, pain from the past, coming dissociatively into here now. To them, every time they feel all this pain, and they're usually in some kind of pain to one degree or another, untreated, every time they feel whatever it is, panic inside, agitation, just cascading emotions like the tallest waves in the sort of like most dysregulated, dysfunctional ocean. So they feel like they're drowning, and they've sort of thrown that rope at you, like, or put the lifesaver, the thing around your head, because you're going to be that object of not only their constancy, because they don't have it, object constancy, but you're going to be that safety, that harbor in an otherwise drowning emotional reality. And often when this is happening for people with BPD, you'll see behavior manifested, whether it's externalized out or internalized in, but you're not going to really often know that they're going through some of these cycles inside, triggered, dysregulated emotion, the kind of pain they carry with them pretty much 24/7, and then it can get worse when they're triggered. So they feel a lot like they're drowning. It's been described to me like this a lot by a lot of people with BPD. So when they feel like they're drowning, sometimes it's the family of origin, the wounding parent, cluster B mother. They'll go back there when they ghost you. Sometimes it's moving on to the next person. But each person with codependency who falls in love with who you think they were, and then the honeymoon phase ends and the first split to devaluation happens, and you're seeing all of this stuff going on, and or they're yelling at you, or they're giving you the silent treatment. Because now they've been triggered, and of course they have that close and distant kind of struggle, right? Approach avoidance conflict. Because if they're too close, they feel engulfed, and that leads them to feel like they're going to be annihilated, and then all this big waves of the triggered emotional dysregulated pain comes in again, and they don't have a clue how to handle it or what to do with it. So they will externalize it out on other people, and then that's when what their behavior manifests there is not okay, but so what I wanted to really say here for people in any relationship type with somebody with BPD, or that you have been, or that you're considering even a family member, or a parent, or a significant other, or if you're the favorite person, if you're a friend, you might really be like, I can't take this anymore, and what is going on, etc. Well, they feel like they're drowning, and what happens is when they reach out to you and the relationship begins with that idealization, mirroring, and their codependent people pleasing, and then you have your own issues as to why you don't have boundaries, and that's all too good to be true, and it's fabulous. And then after the honeymoon phase, and as everything starts to deteriorate and the roller coaster starts to really, really move, and you're walking on those big eggshells, it's like what's really happening to you is that they're pulling you underwater. And so many people, after these relationships end, or people go no contact with a significant other, adult child of a BPD parent, or a friend, a sibling, whatever it is, the relationship type, people are like so exhausted, so stressed out, so worn out. Not that some people still care, some people maybe don't. Everybody's different. But what's happening to you? How do you lose yourself? Well, many different ways, right? Through many different episodes of no closure, of they're acting in or acting out, and what's really driving that is hard for people to understand, especially when you're on the receiving end of the behavior that results from what's going on inside of people with BPD untreated internally. So they're drowning in this emotional sea that they don't have conscious awareness of. And they've got the life preserver on you, and you are the life preserver, and they grab that rope, and you're losing yourself every single time there's an issue, an episode. They're triggered to emotional dysregulation. There's an argument, there's a fight, there's a situation, there's chaos, there's drama, the roller coaster, the eggshells, because then they're pulling you into their emotional chaos and drama, which is like they're pulling you into the water of their dysregulated, unending emotional pain. And so what that really does to you then is, and for some people, it can be a really apt analogy, this, because if you don't get out of that relationship now, or maybe you have and you still can't go full no contact, if you don't take care of yourself, you are literally drowning yourself. And you're not drowning in the same ocean of dysregulated emotion as the untreated borderline, but now you've been pulled under the water by them in any relationship type, and you're losing yourself, and everything is confusing. And just to keep with the water analogy, it's like you're underwater, and you're trying to breathe there, and it's like, and you're just gasping for air emotionally, like what's going on? What's happening? And then people after the relationship breakup, the exes are so like hard on themselves. Like, I can't believe I was so foolish. I can't believe I was so stupid. This is what I hear from people. And I'm not saying you were any of those things, but people get really critical. So people with BPD are always drowning in these emotional waters of lack of self, arrested emotional development, and adverse childhood experience. So that's one thing, and they don't have a self. They're always drowning in these waters. And then come triggers that make it all more intense and worse. So with that said, then they're looking for you to be that life preserver, and they're going to be pulling you under the water too. And they don't know that, and they don't understand their impact on others. And again, it's not an excuse, it's just an explanation, right? And so people who stay too long with other people with BPD, with people with BPD, sorry, you're really losing yourself, and now you're starting to drown in, emotion. Maybe you're not feeling it, but you're starting to drown in confusion and cognitive dissonance and emotional dissonance. And with codependency, people really don't know how to face themselves. You've been really abandoning yourself as you've been overgiving and taking so much responsibility for this person with BPD, which is a whole other thing about why codependents do that. But make no mistake about it. They always, people with BPD, with the pain, they are always in, and it rises and it lessens, but it's always there. This emotional tidal wave of pain inside them. So they're always under the water emotionally. They're always way down there. And then sometimes when they try to get you back, or they get into this overcompensatory defensive kind of maladaptive behavior where they look like they're in the I'm okay position and they're putting you in the you're not okay position, and you're thinking, what? And now they're acting like as if they're all superior. They're just trying to get up to the surface of the water. And it can look very different, right? But that's essentially emotionally what's really happening and what motivates them. And they don't know this in their consciousness. So they're really trying to pull you down, because they're trying to get out of the emotional agony they're in. So they're pulling you into the water so that they can try to get just a little higher up and try in the water to try to get to the surface so they can feel some relief, so they can somehow, sometimes just dump some of that pain. And so you're getting dragged into the water, and they're not trying to really get you with that, but they're just so desperate to try to get themselves up a little bit. So if they're down near the bottom of the ocean in this emotional, metaphor, then when they pull on that rope of you're the life preserver, you go smashing into the water, confusion, chaos, drama, pain. And they're not trying to do that to you on purpose, but it happens. And then they're just trying to get up a bit in the water or to the surface, for some air and relief. And then what happens is, you're down under it all now. And so these cycles repeat and repeat and repeat. But make no mistake about it, people with BPD untreated are, most of them, they're not all the same, but they're not trying to do this to you on purpose to get you, or, somehow it's all calculated. It's really about what they're really going through inside that people can't understand from the outside, even though you can know they're in pain. You can't understand the degree and the level of that, although sometimes by the end of these relationships, a lot of people in any relationship type who have codependency start to almost feel like they're in about as much pain. And it's different from the person with BPD. But so many people after these relationships, wherein people with BPD might call you a narcissist, by the way, which doesn't mean that they're accurate, you might also feel like you have BPD. I've had so many clients over the years that just can't even count how many people have said to me, are you sure I'm not borderline? I think I'm borderline, after being with somebody with borderline personality. So make no mistake about it, you're not only the parent representation, they're desperate for love, but in this metaphor, this analogy I've used of the water, they are always underneath it, down near the bottom. And then they pull on that string, and they and all the manifestations of maladaptive behavior that involve you, that pull you into the chaos and drama. You're trying to rescue, fix, save, You're enabling them. Now you're under the water, and they're just trying to get to the surface. And it feels like it's oh so purposefully manipulative. And I'm not saying sometimes some things they do aren't manipulative, but this is about their survival. And they have the arrested emotional self, arrested emotional development. Their survival, 24/7 for them, feels threatened almost always. And so if you wonder why they can't love you, they can't give love, they can't receive your love, that they're so unpredictable, or sometimes for each individual predictably unpredictable, it's because they just don't have a self, and they're drowning in the emotional seas of all kinds of emotional pain. And even when they're not triggered, they're still carrying this with them. And this is a huge difference between people untreated or people with BPD and people with NPD. People with NPD are not experiencing all this pain that people with BPD do. So I hope that might help some people today to understand that these people are in an incredible ocean of pain. They feel like they're drowning. They feel less than. They can overcompensate with defensive strategies, maladaptive, to try to look like they think they're superior because they're just trying to get their head above the water, but they don't even understand why they're drowning inside. And then, yeah, they're going to pull you in the water too. And that's how you lose yourself. And that's how people come out of these relationships feeling like they're a borderline, or having been called a narcissist and believing it, but you have so much self-doubt because you've been really losing yourself. Every time they plunge you in to the depths of their triggered dysregulated emotion, and whatever that looks like and however that manifests, they're dragging you into the water to try to get just a little bit of relief. And they don't understand the impact they're having. So people with BPD are desperate for love, but they can't receive it. There's no self there to receive it. They can't give it untreated. And they don't trust. There's no self there. So I hope that this might have been helpful. Different way to put it. These are really compelling relationships, and they're devastating for people with untreated BPD as much as they are for those with, well, not as much, but in a very similar way as they're devastating to people who try to love somebody with BPD or are close to somebody with untreated BPD, and they're really not out to destroy you at all. And as a matter of fact, they don't even have the strength from which to do it. So I'm talking about generally most untreated people with BPD, male or female. And the fact is that, not the more severely impacted that many people have experienced, and we're seeing a lot of people talking about on this channel and online. So I hope that was helpful. And just know it's not all as conscious as you probably think it is, but it's still devastated you, hasn't it? So what are you going to do about that today for yourself? And take care.